Yes, hello again. Today is the 22nd of May 2016, and this video is about reading 5 cards for a particular question. Right, so if you're interested in how to get meanings out of pictures on cards, this video is for you. And this began when I had an email from Edgar, and he'd been trying the, pick a card a day, and you read meanings and you learn what a card is supposed to mean. But he found that he wasn't getting very far with it. And often, he found he could struggle to relate a particular meaning to a particular question. So when people ask me about the card a day, I normally suggest that if you're practicing on your own, what you do is you think of a general question, whatever it happens to be, and then you pick a card and see what that card would say in answer to that question. And then you keep the same question in mind and you pick another card. And you just keep picking cards one after the other for the same question. And in this way, you get to know how different cards would answer a certain type of question. So if the question is, let's say, how will my marriage go? And you get the 3 of Swords, right? The heart, the swords, the rain in the background. This looks awkward, right? But what sort of awkward? So what you do is, you come up with ideas about what it might mean, this 3 of Swords, or what it could be pointing to. So there could be hurt feelings, or annoyance, or tears of sadness, or having your heart broken and there being great disappointment. So they're all kind of bad in their own way, but they're different. But you get the idea of if somebody asks, what's my marriage going to be like, and you get the 3 of Swords, you're going to go through a difficult period, which can last for 1 minute or 6 months. Then you pick another, and you're practicing on your own, so you pick another card, and let's say you get the Sun. And this is a very different story from the 3 of Swords, because with the Sun, good relationship, you have common goals, there's happiness and so on. So you would tell a different story for how the marriage will go. But if you're practicing on your own, there's no pressure to perform, and you don't have to come up with a definitive answer to the person sitting on the other side of the table, right? But at the same time, you're getting to know cards and what they might mean in different circumstances, so that if you do a reading for somebody else and that 3 of Swords comes up and they want to know about marriage, you're already part way to an answer. At least you know in what direction you're going to go in. So Edgar replied that he was interested in the tarot for self-development rather than reading for others. And the first question that he asked, he wanted to know how to develop discipline in himself. I thought that's quite a good question, partly because it's a real question. Because sometimes when you're trying to come up with a question, you think of something that it's for practice, but it's something that's probably never going to happen. So that kind of question can be kind of artificial. But how do I develop discipline in myself? That's a good question. So if Edgar had gone to a reader and his question was, how does he develop discipline? The reader might have tried to create a spread, right? So you come up with a spread. So this card is going to show what you're doing wrong. This card will show what you should be doing. This card will show unconscious fears prompting the lack of discipline. Or this would show your past attempts or past experiences and so on. And I've seen quite a lot of spreads like this and a lot of recommendations from readers that this is what you do. You develop a unique spread for each question or for the particular question. And they take that approach. And the thing is, it can be really, really difficult to answer the question, right? When you're dealing with unconscious fears and the whole bit. So I think it's wise to steer clear of this approach. Partly because creating a spread isn't as easy as you think it is, or as we might think it is, even though it looks straightforward. So the method I suggest instead is you pick a card and see what sense it makes for the question. Then pick another card and see what sense it makes for the same question. So the point is to pick some cards and look at what they show, and maybe what you get from the cards that you're chosen is you get an idea of what's working and what isn't. Or maybe you look at the card and it gives you an idea of a strength, or maybe it shows a weakness. And I'll give some examples using the cards that Edgar got. It's when I'm thinking about this, it's a bit like the method is you pick a card and you figure out the message of the card, or you figure out what it's pointing to. And that's a bit like you turn a card and you get the punchline of the joke. You get the punchline. You don't need to know the backstory of the whole joke. You get to the important point because the card shows an important point, or the end point, or the key thing to be aware of. So it sort of gets to the point, the card does, that you choose. So how can Edgar develop discipline? And the first card that he picked was the Queen of Pentacles reversed. So a queen is a person, and this card happens to be upside down. So we can say, don't be like this person, right? The card's upside down. And this can be a general rule for court cards. So if the card is upright, do this or be like this person. And if it's reversed, don't do this or don't behave the way this person would. And this knowing whether or not to behave in a certain way is also a good reason to use reverse cards. Because if you don't use reverse cards and you get the Page of Pentacles or the Queen of Pentacles, you don't know whether it's saying be like this or whether the Queen of Pentacles is actually a weakness or a defect or something that ought to be changed or a situation that could or should be improved. Whereas if the Queen of Pentacles is reversed, you've got a different starting point for understanding what sense to make of the card. So the Queen of Pentacles reversed. Pentacles is money, but in this, it also represents values. The suit of Pentacles represents values, and somehow values is more appropriate for this particular question about self-discipline. So the Queen of Pentacles upright knows what she wants, but the card is upside down. So we can say she keeps changing her mind about what she's after, right? So with the card being reversed, don't do this, right? So Edgar wants discipline, and he knows this. So stick to that idea. And when he starts talking himself out of it, or coming up with reasons why being disciplined isn't that useful, or why he can't do it, control yourself, or ignore that type of thinking and stay on track. The second card he got with the same question was the Eight of Batons upright. And this is generally a good card, and the Rider deck shows arrows reaching their goal. So it's as if somebody threw them up in the air and they're about to land. So if we apply this idea of taking aim and executing and throwing the arrows or throwing the batons into the air in a certain chosen direction, then Edgar develops discipline by having an end point in mind. It kind of this Eight of Batons reminds him of the idea of not wavering, like we got from the reverse Queen of Coins. She's undecided, she changes her mind. So with the Eight of Batons, remember the goal. That's what he wants to achieve, so achieve it. And the card is upright. So we can say that if he sets a goal, that's an important point, but just by setting the goal, he's kind of halfway there already. Or the odds of success are going to be high if he is serious and thinks it through and takes action. So the third card was the Wheel of Fortune, and it was upright. So with this card, it's easy to turn it over and think to yourself, it's the Wheel of Fortune, so there's going to be sudden change in your life. And we could say that to Edgar, okay, there's going to be sudden change in your life. But saying that is the answer to the question, what will my life be like in the future? Not, how do I develop discipline? And that's why I think it's important to remember the question. And if you do and relate the card to the question, you'll speak more clearly to the questioner. So the wheel may represent sudden change, and that's okay, and it does, but that's not relevant for this question or in this answer. And this is the problem when you learn meanings instead of coming back to the question. And one way to think of reading cards is that we know that 4 plus 4 is 8. And because it's an equation, one side is equal to the other. So we can also say that 8 equals 4 plus 4, right? And that's true. But 8 can also be made up from other numbers. So it can be 1 plus 7 and 2 plus 6 and 3 plus 5 and so on. So if one side of the equation, instead of 8 and 4 plus 4, if one side of the equation is the meaning of the card and the other side of the equation is the question, we don't want to start with the meaning or a meaning or a possible meaning and apply it to the question. Instead, we start with the question and then consider the card and various meanings. A few years ago, I flew to Austin, Texas, but there was no direct flight from Toronto, so I went via Dallas. And in the same way, how does Edgar develop discipline? He doesn't go straight to discipline. He gets there via the Wheel of Fortune. Which means what? What ideas do we come up with when we think about the Wheel of Fortune? So we're starting with the question, how does he develop discipline? And then we're looking at the answer, the Wheel of Fortune. The card's title is a wheel. It's the Wheel of Fortune. We know that wheels go round and round. So if you think of a car tire with a mark on the side of the tire, then as the wheel turns and spins around, that mark is going to come back to the same relative position, right? So somehow this return to the same position, it seems like a routine or a repetition. So we can suggest that Edgar will develop discipline if he has a routine that he sticks to, right? So he could schedule certain activities at a particular time or certain behavior at particular times and make sure he follows through at that time, right? That's a routine, the value of a routine when it comes to developing discipline. Or he could find value in repetition, right? Because the wheel goes round and repeats. So if he makes himself do something sensible and then repeats the exercise and keeps repeating it, that's repetition. And it's going to become a habit. So it'll happen without him having to try. And this is the value of repetition. The fourth card is a Page of Swords reversed, and it's another court card, and it happens to be reversed, so we can look at it as indicating what not to do, right? Page reversed. So what sort of behavior is this? Pages represent young people, and because they're young, pages can represent inexperience. Right, so for Edgar, and it's the card is reversed, the Page of Swords is reversed, don't let lack of experience, or in this case, failure to develop discipline, which has been his experience up until now, don't let that hold him back. He may not have had much success at becoming disciplined in the past, but that doesn't have to undermine his attempts in the future. So don't be a page. At the same time, if you look at the expression the page has, he looks a bit doubtful and afraid. So we might tell Edgar not to be afraid when it comes to being disciplined. Approach the experience or the development of discipline with confidence and expect to succeed, even if you didn't succeed in the past. And this may not seem like you're saying much, but if you've been in that position of going into something with doubt in your mind, you know that the doubt can undermine you and it can matter. Because when you go into something expected to fail, that can often bring about the failure. So Edgar will do better if he gets control of his thoughts. The fifth card was the Ace of Pentacles reversed. So it's coins, but it's money, but it also values. And an ace is a beginning. It's number one. So with the Ace of Pentacles, we've got the beginning of new values, but it's reversed. So maybe it's like there's a twist before he gets to the new values, or there's a difficulty that's going to have to be overcome first before he embarks on the new phase of living or the new phase of life. So if somebody told you were going to start a new job, You would go into the new job ready to learn, right? Or knowing that there would be new challenges and that your past experience may not be enough for future situations, right? That's just normal. So with this ace reversed, Edgar knows if we can tell Edgar, you want to learn discipline, you're going to be beginning a new phase of your life with discipline, and new values are going to be important. And telling him this, it can help him get in the right frame of mind to take advantage of the possibilities that his discipline are going to open up to him. Or the Ace of Pentacles can show the beginning of a new cycle of experience, but it's reversed. So he may have tried for discipline before and not succeeded, but this is a fresh start, and he shouldn't let past difficulties control his future. Because there have been some good cards indicating a positive outcome, the Eight of Batons, the Wheel of Fortune. So when he sees these reversed cards, he can remember that when you're new to something, as he's going to be new to learning discipline, or when we set a goal, our skill level in the beginning doesn't match the mental picture we'd like to experience, because we set the goal of us or Edgar being disciplined, and he's got a mental picture of what that is going to be like. But in the beginning, he hasn't got the skill level yet, because he hasn't implemented what he needs to implement in order to achieve the skill level. So the Ace of Pentacles reversed can be a reminder not to get ahead of ourselves and take it one step at a time. And finally, a key word for this Ace of Pentacles is policy, right? So if you buy something in a store and return it later, the salesperson can say, okay, you had 15 days to return this item, 30 days have passed, so we can't accept it, you can't return it. And that's the store's policy, right? It's a set of rules in place, and everybody knows what they are, so you don't need to argue or discuss or debate. That's the rule. So with this in mind, the Ace of Pentacles being policy, if Edgar takes some time to figure out his policy or his rules or his laws when it comes to being disciplined, he's going to know the conditions he'll go through in advance, so that if something comes up to get him off track, he won't have to debate or argue with himself if or when he tries to slip back into old habits. Okay, I try to keep these videos quite short, even though I go on for a while. But those are some ways to interpret 5 cards for a particular question. And if you have comments or additional thoughts, leave them below, and I'll deal with them, because there may be follow-up questions that you have or points that you make. And the last point is that last week I mentioned I was going to tell you something. Oops, banged the microphone. I was going to tell you something new, but I didn't get the website ready yet. But let me tell you about what my plan is. So I want to write a book that contains everything anybody ever wanted to know about the tarot, from first thinking about it all the way through to doing a reading. So, because people email me, have emailed me, and I've spoken to them, and they want to know things like, once you've done a reading, should you put all the cards back in order? Or if you've got reverse cards, do you set everything all the right way up? Is that important? Or maybe somebody says to you, you're involved with the tarot, that's the work of the devil, you're going straight to hell. So if somebody says that to you, it can throw you, or it can undermine you, it can get under your skin. But if I can cover questions like that and points like that, then you're going to handle objections better. So if I can cover the types of questions that people have or come up with, or the kinds of doubts or worries that they have, and give you an answer you can agree with or disagree with, or come up with your own variation on the answer, then it's going to put you in a much stronger position to work well with cards. So the idea is, I've got a lot of material already done and it's all organized and so on. But I'm thinking I come up with various points, but you can have your own things you're concerned about or questions you would ask. So if you want to send me an email, you can leave a comment here or send me an email to bllntr@yahoo.com, and I'll gather them all together and deal with them and organize them. And it's a book, I'd like to sell it for about $9, I'm thinking. And what it'll be is a OneNote file or an Evernote file, and I'll give you buy access to it, which means that when I update it or add new information or incorporate somebody's objection or questions into the finished product, as I update it to upgrade or update the version of the file in OneNote or in Evernote, when you log into it, you get the updated version. So it's a kind of ongoing, up-to-date version of the book, rather than emailing PDFs or buying a book and then having to get updates. So that's my idea. And I'm going to write the book anyway. So if you've got things you would like me to include or discuss, or questions you'd like me to deal with, send me an email and we'll take it from there. And ideally the site will be up next weekend, and I'll have a form there, and we can work directly through that website. Okay, that's it for the moment. I'll have another video next week. Don't know what it's about, but there'll be something. So have a good week till then. Thanks very much. Bye-bye.